Hello and welcome to NCFE's TQ Best Practice Network. This network is designed to support educators in enhancing assessment practices across health, science, healthcare science, and the education and early years T-levels. Today we're looking at key themes that we explored in our recent live Best Practice Network. Our focus in this session is on achieving excellence in assessments. We'll dive into strategies for formative and summative assessments that build students' skills and confidence, particularly in areas like exam techniques and extended response questions, or ERQs. My name's Gemma McGregor and I'm the Provider Development Officer for Education and Early Years at NCFE, and I'm joined today by my colleague Tracy Hutchinson, who is the Provider Development Officer for Health, Healthcare Science and Science. Okay, so first let's look at the aims for today's session. Enhance teaching and learning and assessment practices to improve the quality and effectiveness of teaching and learning and assessment by promoting innovative strategies, evidence-based approaches, and reflective practices that support educators in delivering high-quality, student-centred education. To encourage reflective practice, we want to encourage educators to reflect on and refine their own assessment methods through peer support and shared experiences. We're looking to promote collaborative learning and to foster collaboration among educators, to share best practices and successful approaches to assessing student progress and development. And lastly, to leverage technology in assessment. We'd like to explore and implement the use of digital tools and AI in enhancing formative and summative assessments. Now let's look at the objectives for the session. Our objectives are centred around supporting educators in effective assessment practices. We want to facilitate the sharing of good practice. We aim to create opportunities for educators to showcase successful strategies and share their resources. We'd like to promote diverse assessment methods by encouraging a range of assessment tools that address diverse learner needs. We want to be collaborative in resource creation and sharing. We're building a shared repository of adaptable resources for everyone's teaching contexts. And we really want to encourage reflective practice on new strategies, supporting regular reflection on these new techniques. And lastly, explore innovative assessment tools, embracing new technology and approaches to enhance assessment in your classroom.
So we'll be exploring first of all the features of Padlet's new sandbox tool, which we used in our best practice network. It's a dynamic, collaborative workspace that enhances interactions and creativity in learning environments. We'll go through its features and discuss how each one can bring more engagement and flexibility into your classroom. First, let's discuss what Padlet Sandbox is. Sandbox is a dedicated area within Padlet where students and educators can freely experiment without impacting core content. Think of it as a safe testing ground, a place where students can brainstorm, develop ideas, and make mistakes in a low-risk setting. This makes Sandbox ideal for interactive, collaborative activities that encourage student autonomy and creativity. So let's explore some of the features. But first of all, a secure workspace. So one of the standout features of Sandbox is its secure workspace. Sandbox is separated from the main Padlet board, so students can explore ideas without affecting the primary content. This is especially valuable when we want students to practice or engage in trial and error learning. By providing this safety net, Sandbox helps build students' confidence and reinforces that learning in an ongoing, evolving process. Next, we have Sandbox's collaboration tools. These include real-time posting, commenting, and editing capabilities that allow students to interact in meaningful ways. Students can post ideas, share comments, give feedback to each other, making it a fantastic tool for group work, brainstorming, and peer review. By facilitating these interactions, Sandbox enhances both engagement and a sense of community within the classroom. Sandbox also supports rich media integration. This means students aren't limited to just text. They can upload images, videos, links, and even drawings to support their responses. For example, in a science course, students might upload diagrams or videos explaining certain concepts, adding a visual dimension to their learning. This variety keeps activity engaging and caters to different learning styles. Another valuable feature of Sandbox is its privacy controls. As educators, we can adjust access settings to control who can view and participate in Sandbox activities. This creates a safe environment for students, especially for sensitive projects or discussions. We can make Sandbox as open or as private as needed, depending on the activity and learning objectives. Sandbox also provides instant feedback and reflection tools. Teachers and peers can leave comments, annotations, and reactions directly into the sandbox. This immediate feedback promotes reflective learning, helping students understand their progress and areas for improvement. It also allows educators to offer real-time guidance and support. One of the most convenient features of Sandbox is the ability to clear and reset it for new activities. After a brainstorming session or group activity, we can quickly reset the space to start fresh for a different task. This flexibility means we can use Sandbox repeatedly without clutter, making it perfect for various activities throughout the course. Finally, Sandbox includes tracking and archiving options. You can save or archive Sandbox activities, creating a record of student participation and progress over time. It is useful for tracking individual contributions, reviewing past activities, or even using successful projects as study aids. It's a great way to monitor growth and reflect on learning milestones. So let's see this in action. So we gathered feedback through Slido and Sandbox in our best practice network, and it revealed some of the biggest challenges students faces are in specific areas. Our BPN aims to address these issues by supporting teachers in finding effective strategies to guide students through these challenges. Here we can see confidence and anxiety in students is one of the biggest challenges, as well as the new types of assessment students face. And in education in early years, this is further agreed, with theories being one of the harder topics. So let's explore some key areas from the Chief Examiner report that students needed to develop in order to succeed. And we'll also explore different ways that we can then support in those areas as teachers. So to begin with ERQ skills. So formative assessments with frequent ERQ practice help students improve their structured responses. These can later be tested in summative assessments that integrate feedback from the formative stage. In regards to critical thinking, case studies, group discussions, and problem-based learning activities during formative assessments encourage the development of higher-order thinking skills necessary for summative assessment. Another key area in the Chief Examiner report was math proficiency. So formative quizzes focusing on data interpretation and mathematical reasoning can prepare students for summative tasks that require these skills. And the final area that was highlighted in the Chief Exam reports was around reflective practice. Reflection is essential in both formative and summative assessing, allowing students to critically evaluate their learning journey and continuously improve, will help improve outcomes in assessments also. So these are just some of the areas that are highlighted in the Chief Examiner report, and these are some strategies in order to sort of improve these key areas. But then we did ask our providers, how could Best Practice Network really help support in challenging areas like these? So in the health and science TQs, providers highlighted the sharing ideas and effective strategies will support this problem solving together. And this collaborative approach was mirrored in the Education Early Years Best Practice Network, with tried and tested and new ideas, all important to support teaching and delivery.
Now let's explore formative assessment in some more detail. In formative assessment, we have 6 key actions. Firstly, identify learning gaps early so that interventions can be made before assessments. Then we need to provide timely feedback, helping students understand their areas for improvement. We aim to promote active learning by engaging students in the process, encouraging deeper understanding. We should also tailor instruction to meet individual needs, ensuring every student receives the support they require. Next, we work to reduce text test anxiety by familiarising students with expectations, which ultimately helps to build their confidence for future assessments. Formative assessments are designed to provide ongoing feedback and are really essential for improving key exam skills before students face high-stakes summative assessments. Formative assessments are especially critical for building exam technique and critical thinking, both of which were highlighted by the Chief Examiner as areas where students needed improvement, as Tracy mentioned earlier. Exam technique mastery. One of the key findings was that students struggle with time management and understanding exam structures. Formative assessments should include frequent, time-practiced exams, where students can develop these skills in a low-pressure environment. An example of this would be to run regular 30-minute timed quizzes during lessons to stimulate exam conditions covering a range of question types, for example, multiple choice, short answers, and extended response questions. Developing extended response question skills. The Chief Examiner emphasised the need for students to practice structured responses. Formative assessments should involve writing ERQs regularly with feedback on structure, argument coherence, and critical analysis. An example of this would be to assign ERQ homework weekly and provide rubrics for self-assessment and encourage peer feedback sessions where students can critique each other's work, learning from different approaches and errors. And lastly, critical thinking. Formative case studies that mirror real-world situations can really help students develop their critical thinking, analysis, and evaluation skills. An example would be during lessons present a clinical case study and ask students to work in groups to identify issues, analyse data, and propose solutions. Then each group can present their analysis and the class discusses their approach. This slide covers formative assessment stations, and these are dynamic interactive learning environments where students rotate through different stations. These can be physical or virtual, and they each focus on a different method of assessment or learning activity. These stations are designed to provide varied opportunities for formative feedback, allowing students to demonstrate their knowledge and skills in different ways. They benefit students in several ways, the first one being the variety of assessment methods. Each station focuses on different skills and competencies. Examples of this could be time management, critical thinking, or reflection, and it gives students multiple ways to demonstrate their learning. Immediate feedback. After each activity, students receive formative feedback, which they can then use to improve before moving on to more high-stakes summative assessment. Collaboration and reflection. These stations encourage peer learning and self-reflection, helping students become more aware of their own learning processes and areas for improvement. And lastly, targeted development. By rotating through these stations, students receive targeted feedback on key areas, such as extended response question structure, exam technique, and problem solving, all of which were highlighted as critical by the Chief Examiner. Let's look at some examples. So the first here is mock meetings. Now, mock staff meetings offer significant benefits for students, starting with real-world experiences, which provides insight into workplace dynamics, decision-making, and collaboration. They also develop communication skills, building confidence in speaking, listening skills, and presenting ideas. Through these meetings, students practice problem solving by tackling challenges in a team setting and gain a better understanding of professional roles. These skills developed in these sessions include teamwork and collaboration. They foster collective problem solving, time management, managing discussions efficiently, professional conduct, covering etiquette, agenda setting, and documentation, and also critical thinking, encouraging reflection to enhance decision-making skills. Next, let's look at debates. Debates offer a range of benefits for students, starting with critical thinking, which encourages a deep analysis and the formation of well-reasoned arguments. They also enhance effective communication, allowing students to articulate their ideas, sometimes persuasively. Debates help in understanding multiple perspectives, fostering appreciation for diverse viewpoints, and they build decision-making skills by training students to evaluate information and make informed judgments. Additionally, debates develop key skills such as confidence in speaking, which reduces fear of expressing opinions, and active listening, teaching students to respond thoughtfully to opposing views. They also strengthen research skills as students gather relevant information to support their arguments and promote teamwork, especially when debates are conducted in groups, encouraging collaboration and strategy building. Finally, let's explore micro-teaching. Video recorded micro-teaching sessions bring multiple benefits to students. Starting with self-reflection, these recordings allow students to watch and evaluate their own teaching techniques. They also provide real-world practice in a safe environment where students can apply instructional methods. Through feedback from peers, your students gain constructive criticism and suggestions for improvement. This process also boosts confidence as students practice in a supportive setting. The skills developed include presentation skills, improving clarity and communication, room management for handling group dynamics, time management for effective instruction pacing, and peer collaboration, where students refine their approach collectively through feedback. We then asked your peers in our best practice networks to share their successful formative assessment strategies. In the health and science TQs, video and key skills and reflections was key, with different methodologies such as the slop and retrieval roulettes. Whereas in education and early years, further strategies in education was explored, with a short, quick, in-the-moment task such as Kahoots to create expression and creating a website and podcasts.
So now we're going to explore summative assessment. So what is summative assessment? So summative assessments are used to evaluate student learning at the end of a unit or course, providing a final measure of whether students have achieved learning outcomes. Summative assessment should be designed with chief examiner feedback in mind to ensure they test the skills and knowledge students need to succeed. So for example, tackling complex questions. Students need practice handling multi-step integrative questions in summative assessments. Incorporating these questions into final exams and end of unit tests will encourage students to apply knowledge across different areas, a key concern from the chief examiner. For example, design a summative exam with multiple ERQs that require students to integrate knowledge from different topics. For example, combining scientific theory with practical clinical skills in health T-levels. In regards to maths proficiency, summative assessments must include mathematical tasks, as students often struggle with data interpretation, graph reading, and calculations. So an example could be including problem-solving questions that require students to interpret statistical data or perform calculations. These can be framed in realistic scenarios, for example, reading medical statistics or educational statistics, and even calculating things like drug dosages in healthcare. In regards to reflective practice, summative assessments can include a reflection component where students are asked to review their learning journey and performance. So after a final project or exam, include a reflection task where students discuss their strengths, challenges, and areas for improvement based on their experiences throughout the course. So now it's about planning the assessment journey through effective linkage between formative and summative assessment. So where do we begin? So formative assessments are stepping stones that build students' confidence and capabilities before they face high-stakes summative assessments. So for examples, use formative ERQ practice to prepare students for summative ERQ assessments through frequent feedback, iterative improvements, and this will build the structure and depth required. In regards to critical thinking and complex questions, embedding problem-based learning and case studies into formative work help support students develop the skills needed to handle complex multi-step reasoning tasks and summative assessments. So in planning the assessment journey, we map out each student's progress from formative tasks to the final summative assessment. We start by selecting a specific content area and breaking it down into key stages. Step 1 is using diagnostic quizzes to identify baseline skills. Step 2 includes case studies or reflective tasks to build critical thinking. Step 3 involves practice, so with extended response questions, with feedback from peers and teachers. And finally, in step 4, students tackle summative assessment with complex multi-step questions that test their integrated knowledge. So this structured journey prepares students by building necessary skills and knowledge, while formative assessments help target weaknesses highlighted in the Chief Examiner report. So let's explore planning this assessment journey and explore the results from our best practice network. So for health and science, we have several different ideas. So I'm going to pick 2 from each of these ones. So in regards to DNA, and this one here, the DNA learning module, these steps include presentation, quizzes to identify knowledge gaps, creating DNA models, collaborative whiteboard activities, and practice exam questions, which reinforce understanding through multiple learning methods. And using the ipsative approach, the approach encourages self-assessment by starting with example questions, conducting research, creating resources like leaflets, and re-answering initial questions to reflect on learning process. In these examples, we have infectious diseases. So these steps included, again, initial assessment, researching a disease, evaluating control methods, and a final assessment with long answer questions on disease transmission. And finally, for skin integrity, this involves starting with a key initial questions, moving through case studies, practical assessment, and ending with a written report. For the education in early years, we have initial assessment and theory. So this one here starts with initial assessment, then research activities around learning theories, evaluation of a theorist, and then end of topic testing. And then we had self-assessment cycle. So this included independent study, presentations, peer discussion, reflective activities, and identifying knowledge gaps through self-assessments. So during the Education Early Years session, we also discussed the ideas of student-centered learning. While this website is an American source, the principles and resources are still useful for us when we consider how to develop assessment opportunities for our students. Student-centered learning is a pedagogical approach that puts the needs, interests, and goals of students at the centre of their learning journey, allowing these aspects to drive how we teach. It is organised around 4 principles: flexible structure, assessment for learning, authentic experiences, and student agency. The graphic you can see on the screen shows how these areas complement each other and can guide our own teaching, learning, and assessment practice. The Innovation and Practice Toolkit, accessible via the web link on screen, focuses on the core principles of student-centered learning, or SCL. Each core principle section contains a definition of the principle, key consideration for educators to support their growth in that area, an exploration of each of the practices that embody the principle, and some innovative teacher-developed tools that exemplify each practice.
In this section, we'll explore a novel approach to supporting formative assessment using artificial intelligence to generate extended response question or ERQ responses in examples. By leveraging AI, educators can quickly create sample answers across different performance levels, giving students clear exemplars that demonstrate what's expected. This method not only saves time, but also helps students understand the criteria for high quality responses, enabling them to improve their own work through comparison and reflection. In this example, we use ChatGPT to generate 3 exemplar responses, a low, medium and high level, based on a specific question, in this case from the Education and Early Years paper around applying humanism theory in the early years foundation stage. We included details in the prompt, such as marking bands for content and quality of written communication, and gave a total mark of 15. After seeing the initial responses, we noticed these appeared too polished, so we adjusted the prompt and specified that language should reflect the age group with UK English and include minor errors, making it more authentic for 16-year-olds. In this example, for health, after generating example answers with ChatGPT, we asked it to justify the marks given for a low-level response. For content, it awarded 2 marks here, noting that the response shows a basic understanding of rheumatoid arthritis, but lacks depth and detailed evaluation. Key ideas like the role of ibuprofen are briefly mentioned, but not well explained, and the reasoning is a little underdeveloped. For the quality of written communication, or QWC, only 1 mark was given. The response uses simple grammar and some technical terms, but lacks clarity and structure, which impacts the overall coherence of the answer. This can help teachers when exploring the example answers given by AI to explore the justification and whether there are any amendments needed. Always check responses that AI generates and change anything you don't agree with. Even better, tell AI what you want to change and why, and it will fine-tune it for you. To further support assessment, we asked ChatGPT to create a simplified rubric. Here we have a breakdown for Band 3 and Band 2 across assessment objectives. This simplified rubric, created by ChatGPT, is really useful because it breaks down expectations into clear, measurable criteria for each performance band. It helps your students understand what distinguishes a high-quality response from a mid-level one across different assessment areas such as knowledge, application, reasoning, and communication. For educators, it provides a straightforward tool for consistent and transparent grading, aligning feedback with specific skills. This supports formative learning by showing students exactly where and how they can improve. Now it's your turn to try using AI for assessment preparation. Here's the scenario, and you're creating an assessment for a student on a specific topic in your subject area. You can pause the recording here if you'd like to have a go at creating your own sample answers. So firstly, you're going to identify the topic or concept you want to assess. Then you're going to use ChatGPT to generate 5 assessment questions on this topic. You can mix question types and choose multiple choice, short answer, or scenario based. You're then going to ask ChatGPT to provide model answers or feedback for these questions, which you can then use to guide your students after they complete the assessment. And lastly, you're going to ask ChatGPT to create a rubric for the questions you've created. Once you've done this, and perhaps after you've finished watching the recording, spend some time looking at your ChatGPT response. You might want to reflect on some of these areas. So is the content relevant? How accurate is the response that ChatGPT provided you with? How might you use it in your classroom? And equally importantly, how could your students use it moving forward? In our further reading section, there are 2 recommended articles. Please do take a look at these after the recording. The first, titled AI Helps Time-Strapped Teachers, discusses how AI tools are reducing teachers' workload by automating tasks like grading and lesson planning, giving them more time to focus on teaching. However, it also raises concerns about data privacy and over-reliance on technology. The second, the Teacher Wellbeing Index, highlights the mental health challenges in education, with 78% of staff reporting stress. It suggests the need for better mental health resources, reforming inspection practices, and increasing support for educators. Do you think artificial intelligence could support teacher wellbeing? Something to think about.
So we like to invite you to join our best practice network. Here's why it's worth joining. You'll connect with the educators across the sector. You'll gain access to exclusive resources and participate in live sessions focused on best practice, which we've already highlighted some of the successful collaboration on our last session that we throughout the use of Slido and Sandbox. To get involved, you can sign up for our live sessions to enhance your teaching skills with interactive discussions and join our Microsoft Teams page for continuous networking, shared materials, and ongoing collaboration. If you're ready to join, visit the TQ's event page on our website. We look forward to connecting with you. Before we wrap up, we'd love to hear your feedback. Please take a few minutes to complete this feedback form for our Health and Science TQ's BPN or the Education and Early Years BPN session. Your insights are incredibly valuable and help improve our offerings. You can access the form via the QR code on the right or by visiting the link provided. Thank you for helping us make these sessions as impactful as possible. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate your time, insights, and commitment to enhancing teaching practices. We look forward to seeing you in our future sessions and continuing this journey of learning together.